How you going? Today on an episode of How Smart is a Queensland Farmer, we're going to pull the lid off an injector pump, a DPA pump, and replace the shaft O-rings. While we're doing that, we'll pull the O-rings, we'll pull the injector lines off and replace the head O-ring under there. This can easily be done with a little bit of patience. Generally you buy a full seal kit from an injector pump shop. Take a lot of photographs before you start so you remember where your injector lines go and the position of your levers. And you should end up with a leak-free injector pump. First up, I've pre-loosened the screws here, but you pull the two levers off. The throttle lever and the stopper lever. Space everything out on a clean area so you can see what you're doing and you don't lose your parts. If it's on the tractor, I quite commonly do these on the tractor. Spread out a white sheet or a plastic bag underneath so you can see when you drop something. When you go to pull this lid off, leave both the shafts behind. That's the first thing you do, and the last thing you do is make sure the shafts stay behind on the injector pump. They're not coming off with the lid. You can take the stopper with the lid, it's just hanging down. Now, I'm going to remove the O-rings on that shaft and on the throttle shaft. And I'm going to clean the bores out in that lid. The bore there where the lever goes. I'm going to clean those out. You look through them towards a piece of light and make sure there's no grooves in there. If there is grooves in there, roll yourself up a little piece of emery tape and hone it up and down the bore until that comes clean. Then you're going to remove the O-rings off the shafts, replace the O-rings, put fresh grease and clean the emery tape out of there. We'll be able to put the lid back on. You ready? Okay. As you can see, we've cleaned the throttle shaft hole out. They quite often get a little bit of wear in there. I'm trying to wriggle it around so you can see. That's the best I can do with emery tape for now. Always wash your emery tape out with petrol Kero gun or clean detergent. You can see I've got the throttle shaft here. I've gently pulled it off the spring. You can see the stopper shaft. I'm going to put new O-rings on those. Now, a description of what's in the pump. That's the throttle spring. You pull on that when you touch the tractor accelerator. It's got a little dampener there. That thing is the governor plate. You pull on the throttle spring. The throttle spring pulls on the governor plate. The governor plate reacts with the throttle shaft. That lever up there operates the throttle shaft. Farmy injector pumps have a lot of trouble with moisture sitting in that area there. And it makes them stick in the stop position. The only way I've successfully fixed that is to pull either that tin plate off or undo the injector head, twist it a little bit until the throttle shaft here comes to this relief there. Then you can slip it up and out and wipe it over with a piece of newspaper. And you'll blow all that stuff clean with a compressed air gun. Blow that out. You'll quite possibly pull the window off the side there to get any remnants of dirty water or fuel out of there. That has to be pretty clean. That has to be pretty clean. When you wriggle the stop lever, or when you wriggle the go lever, it's not to be sticky. Now, I'm going to put new O-rings on here. Put grease all over them, slip them back in the cover, and then drop it back on the pump. That's only for the people who are doing the lid only. If you are doing the head O-ring around here, I'll loosen these 3 bolts, remove them, they hold the head in. This is for the O-ring around the fuel head. Your pump kit will have all your O-rings and copper washers in there that you desire. If you pull those 3 out, you should be able to slip that as far as the throttle shaft will let you up into this corner, remove the throttle shaft, gently pry the head forwards, and we'll get the gasket in that, get the O-ring in that groove there. Now we're going to remove your throttle shaft here so you can do your injector pump head O-ring around there. So you'll loosen these screws here and the 3rd one underneath. Take out the bleed screw and the other locating screw. I've taken the 3rd one out underneath. That shaft there has to come out. So we'll roll it out from underneath that little tin cover. You can see it there. Once it's like that, you can pick it out. It's quite a simple shaft. We'll get some newspaper, and if it's got any tarnish on it, finish the tarnish off. It can take a little bit longer than that. Make sure you get all the rubbish out of that area. That's where the water sits and corrodes the top of your pump. That's why the throttle sticks. Remove that housing. You can see I've already removed this O-ring here. That O-ring sits just there in that groove. Pick the O-ring out. That's why you remove the injector lines, so you can get that O-ring and take it out and put a new O-ring in, replace it in the groove, make sure the groove's reasonably clean. You can do all this on the tractor. Take that O-ring off, put a new O-ring on, and then replace the fuel head, reverse of what I took it off doing. So you put it back in there, put it back in there, roll it back underneath its tin cover. Make sure it's free. See how free it is? Now you can see I've cleaned the holes out in there with hot detergent water or a petrol kero gun. This is the part where you put the shafts. I've put the shaft back on its correct spring hole there. You take photographs of all that if you're doubtful. You put that gently back in there as you're putting it together. Slip it up in there now. You can see it's starting to come through. Same with the stopper. You can see I've put grease on those shafts and new O-rings. Slip that back up in there. Leave it hanging down. Both of them. Leave them hanging down. You put your new gasket under the lid. There's my 2 shafts placed in their hole, but they're a little bit low. My new gasket's on there. Place the lid down. You should be watching that thing as it hangs down. It's going to end up in the stopper shaft locator there. You have to watch that as it happens. Now get a little set of pliers and lift up the throttle, lift up the stopper as you put them down, and you put your 2 locating sets of washers on there. The washers go back on there, the bolts go on top. Lift them up and place your shafts on the moon. The moon-shaped cutout. They have to go back where they were. Once all that's tightened down, that'll go back together just fine. Here we are with the injector pump finished. We've put all those new little seals there on the bench inside the pump. That's the O-ring from around the fuel head. Those are the O-rings from off the throttle and the stopper shaft. 2 little gaskets off the lid bolts. That's your lid gasket. Couple of copper washers. All that comes in your kit. As you can see, I've done lots and lots of those injector pumps. They're quite simple when you've done a lot of them. Make sure you've got a 5/8 spanner or the right spanner to undo your injector line in case something jams with the revs on your tractor when you go to fit it. Make sure you bleed it up properly with the little bleed screws, as in there. Quite often there's also one on the lid. This tractor's got a bleed screw. You should have a trouble-free run. Those are the most common places for it to leak. There's lots of other video people on the internet if you want to have a look on YouTube on how to do these pumps up. I did it the quickest and simplest way I could. It should be a less than 10-minute film. You should be able to do the whole job in less than an hour. Thank you. Have a nice day.